Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Tonight, we've got a couple really exciting things. So first of all, there is a new Git Kraken release that makes me very, very excited. It has new AI stuff. It has new features, and I am tickled to death. So we're gonna take a look at that. I want to continue poking at my T-unit stuff in material design, get a few PRs merged, probably leverage a little more Copilot. It's been mildly helpful, useful-ish, but we're gonna see how it goes. So let us dive in. So let's see here. I go click and I go click and I go, okay, so here is the new Kraken. So the key thing here, and if I go to the other side, right, is going to be this little version down here, right? You're looking for 11.2.0 is the magical incantation. So if you're wondering what version you want, that's the one. If you don't see it, check for updates, get new updates, etc. So the big guy here, right? AI powered merge conflict resolution, right? Like this is gold, absolute gold. My opinion, one of the hardest things to deal with is conflict resolution inside of Git and source control. I've mentioned before, I think JetBrains Writer might have one of the nicest ones for .NET, only because it's a little more intelligent about the language. So it does something a little better than just the regular text-based merge that most Git tools have. But it can cheat because it's got a language model to play with and can do that kind of thing. Um, but being able to try to leverage this with AI is kind of exciting. Now, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to play with it. It seems decent with my limited experience. We might play with it more tonight. We'll see how many errors and rebase problems we run into. It might be a nice little thing to play with. The other big one here is reverting individual hunks from the diff view. So if you realize, oh shoot, I committed that debug line, didn't mean to do it in that file, you often don't want to revert the whole file. You just want to revert that one part. And so that is new and awesome as a way of just kind of being able to go backwards, which is absolutely gold. This one down here also makes me really excited. The cache of the AI explanations. It was really annoying, like if I hit explain on multiple commits, having to toggle back and forth between them, like that just doesn't feel good. Like you end up having to re-hit the explain again, and so now it at least maintains the last five, which is a lot nicer. To be able to just leverage that, which I'm tickled to death about that. And then prettier buttons, yada yada yada, which is cool. And then a handful of other nice features that I don't care that much about. One that I'm going to point out down here, and this is something that I am actively testing and messaging, get cracking back and forth on. They have an MCP server. However, if you are on Windows, just be aware it doesn't quite play very nice. So I have had a lot of issues getting it to not crash. And once it starts, it's like the instance of the CLI that is running the MCP blocks other instances. And so you end up not being able to use the Git Kraken CLI once you have it started as an MCP server, which is kind of annoying. But something that is actively being worked on, and if you are A, not on Windows, or B, just interested to play around with it, it is a very nice CLI to work with. So that is 11.2 in a nutshell. As always, the video's pretty good. The video's pretty good. So definitely worth a watch. It's like 6 minutes or something, and absolutely worth our time. Okay, so material design, T unit. We got some stuff. There's some PRs that are outstanding, and I'm tempted to just assign Copilot to go review them. One of them we may go and look at, but I wanted to try to get some of these things figured out here. So the password box tests here. Oh, and there's actually something even more exciting. So I'll tip my hand a little bit. So several streams ago, I nerd sniped one of my colleagues because I made a comment that it would be really great if after a test failure like this, I had a build artifact that was just a Visual Studio playlist file of the failed tests that I could download and run. Because more often than not, what I want to do is run the test, the failing test to see what's wrong and fix them locally. and I have completely nerd sniped him into building it for me. This concerns me a little bit that it shows a test count of 6. That does not make me feel warm and fuzzy. That makes me feel very unhappy and not warm and fuzzy. And why do I not have a build artifact? Did I not upload a build artifact? Upload screenshots. No files were found. Really? That seems very unlikely. Let's just go and search the logs real quick because I have a strange suspicion that that is a lie. Where is the... Oh, I actually want to search logs here because... No, you're telling me there's no other usage of the word screenshots but those 3? Something's off. Something is up. Because this is, let's see here, CA, Materials Design Toolkit, Test, UI, Bin, Release, blah, blah, blah. And this is looking in, oh, I guess I gotta scroll now. Material Design, Materials, ooh, I see the bug. See, there's no slash there. That is annoying beyond belief. So let's go here. How long has that been broken? Let's see. So let's see. Upload screenshots. Ooh. GitHub Workspace doesn't include a trailing slash anymore. That's shocking to me. Am I using GitHub Workspace anywhere else? No, that's the only usages of it. Okay, well, we're gonna fix that and send that really quick because yeah, write the commit message for me. See the new pretty one. This is a lot of text for something that is not a lot of text worthy. I need to reprompt. Oh, that's something else that was subtly snuck in to this release. So underneath file preferences, if you check out the GitKraken AI, you'll see that there are extra bits here for additional instructions. I mean, they go along with the other features, but it's worth knowing that those are in there as well. Just to make them a little bit nicer. A little bit nicer. Okay, so that'll kick that off. I want to know what is like, why am I don't understand why I'm having so many problems with this thing running. Kind of want to cancel the execution of this. Oh, stop moving my mouse. I want to cancel. Stop. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I want to get down to password box. Run these tests by themselves, please. Because it claims that there's failures in here, so let's find them. Let's find them. So I am realizing I did just tell it to run 44 tests. For those people interested, I know I teased it on a prior stream as well, but today was actually the day of the GitHub Global Bootcamp that we were hosting at Intelitech. I spent the last 3 hours talking, so hopefully my voice holds out tonight. That'd be really cool if it did. But covering a lot of Copilot stuff. It wasn't streamed on YouTube, but I think, and don't hold me to this, but I think we're planning on posting a recording at some point. So if you watch the Intelitech YouTube channel, you will probably see it there. If you are at all interested in GitHub Copilot, it is very worthwhile. The goal was to take people who had limited experience with it and get them all the way up to speed for being very productive, because I think it is a very valuable tool. Okay, 36 failed. Well, the good news is we at least see the failures. Okay, so there's a whole bunch in the data-driven test. So let's see. Expect math ABS be between, but received 0. Well, let's take a look. Um, so the problem is I wrote this is between method, and now I'm trying to remember if this is an inclusive lower bound, and I'm realizing I should have probably written it to be a little more exact. Because what is it expected to be inclusive? Let's see. If oh, I have the choice, inclusive or exclusive. That's cool. So I wrote it nicely. No, I didn't. This isn't mine. This isn't mine. Yeah, this is T-unit extensions. So is between, how do you set the exclusive or exclusive? Because it has the between assert condition. Do not populate this value. Do not populate this value. Yeah. Oh, you're supposed to do. Oh, I got you. I got you. So it wants. So this is an exclusive range, and these ones. Oh, I see. So this is probably just a logic error, right? So we expect. Let's just read this. Password respects padding. Yes. So with inclusive bounds. So that's what we're looking for. And then this thing. Let's see. Because text field is a play, it slightly modifies the hint placement. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, so that one's there, and I wonder if the other one's basically the same thing. I think it is, because I think these were written at the exact same time. Yeah, I think that is exactly the problem. Okay, with inclusive bounds. With inclusive bounds. That gets me to there, that gets me to there. Okay, so now if I rerun these tests here, I should get success. Then we'll see if that gets us any closer. Oh, my thing is launching on the other side. There we go. My click may have messed it up, but we'll see. I am actually surprised that this thing is set up to spin a separate window for each of these. There's when using XUnit for these tests, it is somewhat expensive if you start fresh every time, because it has to spin a whole new WPF app, create a whole new window. So there's a nice performance optimization if you know that the test that you're writing doesn't require anything static, like in the app.xaml level or similar that you're mucking with. There's no reason to restart the whole app. You can go through and spin it. This one here, I'm guessing it's one app and spinning windows. Oh, Mini4G, thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. And so if it spins a whole new window, a window's cheaper than an app, but it's not free. And so it's actually cheaper to, here we go, all green on the password box test. So it's actually cheaper to go through and just leverage the same window and swap the contents. But I have a suspicion that the way these things are written, yeah, it's using my, or that one's not. Where is it? Where is it? These ones down here. So they're using the shared app, but not a shared window, because this load XAML spins a new window every time. So if I was overly concerned with the execution time of these, because you'll note this took over a minute, the simplest way to speed this up is to give them a shared window and just reuse the same window every time, since I know that these tests are not dependent on anything in the window itself. They're only testing the individual content of it, and then just swap the content. So at some point, I plan on going through and cleaning up these tests, because I think there's a lot of tests that I could optimize that way, but we'll circle back to it, because really it comes down to this test base here. It maintains a consistent app so that we at least once per class, we don't have to spin a new one every time. Though this is before test, and I'm wondering if this is running more than the other one did. regardless, this sort of setup is what ends up spinning up either that app or window. And so if we wanted to have a shared window, this would be where the change would need to go in. Okay, so that handles that. Let me go back to my output window. Let's take a quick gander at any other failed classes, because we know there's that one. This is all, okay, so text box test shows another failure. Let's go with text box tests, and let's run these ones and see what we come up with. This is why I want that playlist file. Like, it would be very nice to just download a playlist of the failing tests and hit run against it. So I told my colleague what I would do is bring him on to the stream, and he can show off his cool new stuff, because I think it'll be pretty slick. Like, it's one of those things. The playlist file isn't something that there's like an open spec for, so he had to reverse engineer it. But it's also not a complicated looking one, I don't think. But he spent a lot of time digging into it, and so I think it'll end up being quite interesting. Interesting. The fact that this window here is hanging is concerning to me. I'm guessing this is going to be the test failure. If I click, does that make it happier? It's not at a breakpoint, is it? Doesn't look like it. But it certainly looks like a hang. Let's kill it for the moment, because we already have a couple failures that we can go and dig into. So I think this is probably another one that has that same, exclusive range. These are probably just need with inclusive bounds, I'm guessing we're going to see a bunch of these, because I don't think when I did the replacement for the is between, I took that into account. So thank you, Copilot. Thank you. Oh, I wanted to check one thing. So tools, options, Visual Studio. So if you haven't updated Visual Studio, you should do so. There's this cool new Copilot consumptions window. And yes, I have logged a bug report. Oh, this one actually shows a usage for me. My other machine, it shows 0, which I found laughable because I clearly have used it a lot more than 0. But you actually get a consumptions window, which is a nice one to be able to do. And if you go into the options here, I want the next edit suggestions. I want to set the completions model, and I want to enable adaptive paste. This is one of the ones that excites me the most from the latest Visual Studio one. If we go File, where's the release notes in here? Release notes. Studio 2022 release notes. Adaptive paste. So this is one that, and for anybody who wants to follow along at home, there's the link. But this is one of the things that's actually one of those nice little predictive things that I think will be really great, is when copying and pasting code, you often have to make extra changes after you paste it in. This is leveraging Copilot to try to do that for you on a paste operation. Now, I'm curious how much it causes me pain and suffering versus how much it works well, but like, there's a reason I run preview builds of Visual Studio. I want to try the new stuff as soon as possible, and so we are going to do it. This is another cool one down here, is before this not implemented solution, now the quick actions just has an implement with Copilot. Right? So now that's convenient, but it's not overly shocking, right? Like, all I would do before is delete the throw and prompt Copilot with like inline chat or something to implement it, and now there's just a quick action for it. So it's like, that's cool. It's not doing, like, it's saving me a little time, but it's not doing anything fancy that I couldn't have done myself a moment ago. Okay, so we're going to run these two tests now that we fixed that inclusive bounds. And I think that'll get those two running. And then we're going to rerun the other test. Because I killed it, this file has it locked. We will unlock that file, and hopefully it takes off here in a second. Yeah. I understand. The file was locked. You wrapped yourself around the axle. You don't like it anymore. I get it. I get it. I'm a little surprised that that process didn't kill it. Yeah, that process is hung. So the XAML test host process actually watches the unit test process, and it will kill itself if it detects the unit test process is dead. The hard part there is it doesn't know whether unit tests are running or not. It only knows whether the unit test process is still alive. And because Visual Studio will oftentimes keep the test host process alive, it can sometimes not realize that it needs to terminate itself when it really should. Okay. So this one here, I think, is basically the exact same test as the combo box. And in fact, we should probably just hunt out and see, because I'm trying to think. Combo box, text box, password box. The fourth one in there, I think. What other type of input boxes there that I'm forgetting about? Rich text box, maybe? But I think if we just hunt this, we can probably find them all. Because all of these tests were, I believe, written at the exact same time. Combo box tests, I believe we already fixed. Nope. So we didn't. So with inclusive bounds. So we're just going to do all of these really quick because I suspect they all need the same change because they're all effectively doing the exact same thing. Hey, Copilot, thank you. See, I didn't even have to tell it what I wanted. I just had to yell its name. That's how powerful it is. That is sarcastic for those people who are unable. Oh, date picker. That's a good one. I forgot about that one. So let's do date picker. Thank you. Figure it out, Copilot. There's your hint. I saw you do it late. You were too slow. You got to be faster than that, Copilot. I cannot afford to wait for you. You are way too slow for me. Come on, figure it out. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm typing. Because darn it, I'm the real developer. You're just a pretend developer. Okay, so that handles those. That handles those. Password box we already did. Yeah. Yeah. And then text boxes we just did. Yeah. And then, oh, time picker. Yeah, I knew there were more. I knew there were more. Let's see. Oh, this is using is close to. Oh. This one might not have been as much of a problem. Is close to condition. Interesting. This one doesn't matter as much because it's going to do something very, very different. Interesting. We could have, in theory, switched the other ones to be the same. You know what? Let's make sure these tests pass really quick, and then I may go and switch the other ones to match, I think. Let's see. Time picker tests. Yeah, this one. I just want to see these ones work really quick. I suspect they will because it's doing a less than or equal to on an absolute value of the difference. So it should be working the same as inclusive bounds. The difference being is that this will handle the negative if the other side happens to be bigger, whereas between might not. So yeah. So that's actually, I think, is close to is actually better than the other one. So we're gonna do this, and then this gets rid of with inclusive bounds. And then there. And then, and in reality, the other thing you could always do to get the same behavior here if you don't have this extension is you could just do negative tolerance to tolerance because the middle is 0, right? Like you can write the equivalent with the built-in stuff. I just wrote the extension partially because I wanted to figure out how to do it. See, and this one is doing the negative tolerance to tolerance because because the center point is 0. If your center point between the upper and lower isn't 0, you just have to appropriately add and subtract. Right? It's now a small math problem rather than something else. But I think is close to is probably, where did you put the tab in? That is one of the other things that has annoyed me is I feel like a lot of the tooling around this is getting problematic. Like the tab key is getting very, very overloaded in terms of the actions that it does. And so it starts to make a user experience issue inside of a lot of tooling. And so I would love to, hold up. I would love to, excuse me, I'd love to see that get a lot better. Because right now, every time you press tab, it does really end up kind of being a little aggressive in its solutioning. Okay, where are you? Let's see, is close to. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Then we can expand you and do the same thing. I think this, like, we've got the extension, we might as well use it. It's just a little less typing. Okay, so that handles that. And we're gonna do AI, write the message for me. Great, thank you. We're gonna push that, and I think that, I don't think the other one probably finished yet, but we'll take a look. Yeah, this one hadn't finished yet, so we're gonna cancel its run, and we're gonna let this one go for a minute. And then I wanna take a brief look at this PR here. So this was an interesting one. Corvin's put in one to fix this problem here, right? So, and so it ends up causing this kind of situation where there's not enough space for your tabs, but in the regular WPF it does, right? So you've got more tabs than you have horizontal space. What should happen? And Corvin's put in an attached property to set wrapping, which is okay, but it gives me pause because the issue is it assumes this enum has a sum total of all the possibilities, and I'm not sure that's right. And I thought the control allowed for swapping that out, but I could be wrong. So I wanted to take a brief gander at, because I think I have an example of this even. I think I have an example of this tab control. No, I don't. So let's go take a, while that thing's thinking about its life. I want to go and look at this guy because I thought you could override this. And it may not be obvious how to do so, and I think that might be the fundamental problem here. But I thought you could get at this. Let's see, because this is a virtualizing stack panel, and that might be the fundamental issue here. Because maybe I'm making this up. I thought property, I thought items panel was the solution here, and maybe I'm just, maybe the issue, the fact that items panel isn't working because of the way this is set up. Because this virtualizing stack panel inside of a scroll viewer here, right, I think is like, this is functionally why you're getting the behavior that you are, right? There's a stack panel, uniform grid, and I'm trying to remember what this uniform grid is for. Is this the collapse all bit? Don't remember why we have this. I might have to double check that. But this here, and I'm wondering if leveraging the items panel might be a better solution. Because what I'd rather do is give people the control to put in whatever items panel they want, rather than an enum with a fixed set of values. Like, admittedly, the enum with a fixed set of values makes it easy, whereas doing an items panel does make it a little more difficult. However, the items panel is significantly more extendable and gives access to all the power, right? Because the moment somebody says, "Oh, I want to set this on your stack panel or your wrap panel," now you have to go and do more work. Because I think that was the implementation here when I looked at it. Is this guy here? Let's see, what was the change? It's the scroll viewer. And so is this just toggling visibility, or where does it swap it out? Some ordering here that's not obvious to me. Wrapping header. Yeah, because you have a wrap panel and a scroll viewer, and this is a combination that gives me a bit of pause because it's very unusual to have a wrap panel inside of a scroll view. I guess this is to scroll vertically if you run out of space. But the question then is, how do you know how much space this should have? Because how much space do you give to your headers versus your actual tab content? Obviously, the container wrapping the tab control knows how much overall space it has, but it doesn't know individually. This one is giving me a lot of pause for that reason. I think we want to do something with the items panel instead and just default the items panel to using the virtualizing stack panel as it is today, and then go from there. Okay, so I know when I see this is often an indication of a failure, but not always, because sometimes it doesn't know that there is a failure. Let's see here. Error test failed. So the auto suggest box test. Let's just grab those and take a look at them. Close, 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 close. This is going to be whack-a-mole with Tess. Why are you guys not in alphabetical order? There. Let's run these. There's only 6. We'll see what's going on. There may still be that hang on the text box one. We didn't go back and double check that. Because that one did give me a bit of pause of why is this thing hanging like that? Boom. Boom. There we go. Okay. So, what do we got? Let's see. Unable to cast item of type string to type task. Well, that seems wrong. We shouldn't be... Where did it go? I can't see what line it was. 227. Let's see. Unable... Wait, what? To type task. Where is the... Am I stupid? Where is the string? Okay, something is... So I am missing some syntax here, and this is my library, which gives me... And it's showing here. So let's just run it until this point and see what is going on. Why I'm... Remote execute, serialize. It's like it tried to serialize the parameter, but that's a task return. Unable to cast object of type string to system threading task. I agree that you shouldn't do that. So don't. Debug. Pretty please. Okay, so we got there. Selected item. Yeah, great. Remote execute. Unable to cast object of type string to system threading tasks. I am clearly misunderstanding something very fundamental here. Because we have remote executes all over the place. And this is a suggest box. And so its parameter needs to be the auto suggest box. Unable to cast object of type system string to. So I'm also holding off on, because I wonder if I broke something in my XAML test. Merry Christmas. What are we up to this sweltering bright morning that is bound to go wrong while I'm at the grindstone? Izzy, it is always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. No, I am back fighting my my T-unit test because I really want to get this thing going, and I don't understand where my cast is occurring. It's clearly occurring inside of this extension method, but I am missing something very obvious that I'm not entirely clear what. Because it takes in a delegate. Okay, so let's turn off. I don't want breakpoint settings. I want tool options. I want debug settings. Debugging. Turn off just my code. I would like to debug in. Oh, thank you, Izzy. I actually have it. The fact that it's down on 79% is that's probably better. My apologies. Thank you for calling that out. I will say I did also submit feedback because this new Copilot consumptions window. Here's a fun. See this? This bothers me. This bothers me a great deal, and it occurs. I find a lot of these because I bump my default font size in Visual Studio up a few points, just because I'm constantly either streaming or presenting or showing similar. And then there's this, right? So if we take Snoop, because a significant portion of Visual Studio is WPF, you can snoop it, which is even better. So you go, oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder why this button is being cut off. So we snoop our way in, and we go and we look at this button, and we go, well, clearly it's being cropped horizontally. So let's look at width properties. And there we find our bug, right? Our max width property right there is being set to 125, and its value source is local, meaning it's set directly on the element, right? And all we have to do to fix this is not set it. That's it. That's the sum total. Like, just stop setting that. Like you can get away with setting things like max width and similar when you don't have a highly customized application. But on Visual Studio, something that allows its fonts to be, like, the font face and size can be completely changed on pretty much every element. You cannot assume the size of any element containing text. Like, you can't. It's going to change when someone like me bumps it up. So it's like, just don't set that. That's all I ask. Don't set it. I want you to not do work. That's all I ask. Like min width, sure, right? You can get away with that because it's like, well, maybe we don't want it going that small. I don't know why min width is being set at all anyway. The window's not resizable. So I have no idea why we have min width set either. But I mean, obviously clearing it doesn't do a darn thing, right? I think it was to override the style, but what do I know? So yeah, absolutely submitted a feedback request for that because that bothered me a great deal, and I was very unhappy about it. I was not okay with how that was working. Okay, so we don't need that breakpoint. So we'll go to here. Then I should be able to step. Okay, so we are here, right? And I have an action. And that action signature looks like what I would expect. I think that's fine. Like, I don't see, right? Like, the return type here is task of auto suggest box. It's interesting that this is task of auto suggest box. Why is that? Why did, am I missing something? The method. Okay, return type of task. I'm just misreading the toString. Got it. There's a space right there. Okay, so return type is task. This is the class and the generated local function that goes in there. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to step again. Empty array, we're going to step up. We're going to step in. Client remote execute. Great. Step in. Okay, remote execute. That's all fine. Method name, method declaring type, full name. Right, like this all looks fine to me. Okay, method generic argument. Generic method, blah, blah, blah. That's all fine. That's all fine. It logs. It does the invocation. Error message is any. Value type is null. This is task. Avoid task result. If value task avoid task result. Oh, that's interesting. That is very, very interesting. I bet you I know where the bug is. I bet you this comes because of the number of places where we were doing this is low. These specific remote executes, I am willing to bet, were previously synchronous, not asynchronous. And that's the fundamental problem. Okay. Okay. This feels like a XAML test. Because I am willing to bet I don't have a test in XAML test covering asynchronous remote callbacks. And I absolutely should. I absolutely should. Let me just refresh my memory on where we were at here, because I know we were doing work in this. Let's see here. We were doing Copilot-y stuff. Oh, that's right. Copilot was attempting to rewrite the source generators for me. We're going to not worry about that for the moment and switch back here. Okay. Because it botched my source generator rewrite in some way that was not obvious. Okay, so I want execution tests. Where are my execution tests? It's going to be either under visual element tests, is probably where the first one is. And remote execute. So this guy here. Yeah. And so we're gonna rebuild all the things. I think it just hasn't refreshed itself. because this is expecting to be able to serialize and deserialize a task, can execute async method. Let's see. And then we want to do, oh, I replaced the wrong word. Task. And then we want to come in here and we want to go with can execute async method with return value. I think. I don't know that we tested the returns very thoroughly before, because there's a very limited number of things that can be returned, but we should probably add a test in here for that as well. So can execute remote code, remote execute, let's see, with return value. I can't type with today, apparently. So we're gonna smooth this around to make the name match the other one. And let's go in here with return value. Okay. Await task delay 10, right? I just need something to slow this down to make it work. Let's see, await task delay 10. Let's see, with return value, return window.title. Right, so I want this to be task of string. Right, and we may not need the return value case. I should check. No, it absolutely supports it. String title, right, is what that should end up being. And we probably need overloads for the task returning ones because we're landing here, and that is wrong. So we want that to work. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Thank you. Why you make me work hard? Okay, and so this one up here, let's see, with return value, we want to go string, and we want to return window title. So before we do the async stuff, let's get the non-async one working, and then we will deal with the async side of the fence. Stop it, Copilot. I don't like yelling at you. Actually, I do like yelling at you, but I would prefer to do it less. Okay, so this guy should probably be nullable. Stop it. You're trying to be helpful, and I'm trying to remind you that you are an idiot developer who needs to knock it off. See, a real developer I could just throw a rubber duck at. Copilot, that's a lot more problematic. Okay. Okay, both of those tests pass. Now we're in happy case. Okay, let's go here. Right, and so this is the interesting one, because you'll note this thing here has already landed on the wrong overload, because you can see it's wanting to return task of nullable task. And that's only because of the way these things are written here. And because in reality, what I would really like is a remote execute function. And this to be task, right? Because I don't want this to be T result. I want this to just be task. And we're going to end up regexing our way to victory. And this just becomes task. Right? That's where we're going. And then, yeah, because it's actually these ones down here that we're going for. And then this just becomes object nullable with the same parameter types. Really? Is it down lower? Where are you? Action. No, you don't. Where is it? Func of T task. Do I need to do remote execute async just to disambiguate? Please, Copilot, you're not helping. Stop it. Why does it? Oh, because ha 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 ha. So I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot is why. There. That should get me into the happy place. So now when we look at this overload resolution, it should be, there we go. So you'll note it's no longer task of task, it's now just task because we've now set ourselves up with an overload that is slightly better. So that gets us into a much better situation. Because now I think it's not going to try the cast on the return, which now should get this to work, I think. Like I said, we'll go through and add a bunch of overloads once we get these working, but because I think I want them all the way out. Okay, so that one all works. Great. We go here. And then this one is absolutely problematic, and this should really be string nullable. But this one here, if we go and look at it, so this is actually going to come up here, and it's going to be a little more akin to this. This is going to be, once again, T result. We'll put that back in, and this is going to be, yes, Copilot, now you're being helpful. And then this becomes T result. Okay, so that one it actually figured itself out on. Overload resolution now works properly. Now we run it. And I think, aside from adding a bunch of overloads, which I don't bother to test every overload because that's kind of pointless. Okay, so that failed, but why did it fail? Expected test title, actual async method builder, blah, 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 blah. So it got the wrong thing back. And it probably is doing the wrong thing on the other one too, but because there's no serialization, it doesn't care. But this guy is making it through. And so I think what we need to do is look at the execution on the other side. Let's see. Host invocation. Yeah, so I think we want to grab it here and take a look at it because that will tell us why it's serializing the wrong value. And I think it probably just needs some special cases to look for if it's an async method, which is not an easy thing to detect. I will point out. I am acutely aware at how painful it is to do properly. So it gets the element, does the needful, loads the assembly, does the needful, gets the method, does this, and this is where I think we're going to run into the problems. Because, yeah, it's just method invoking. And I think what we want to do, because this is already an asynchronous method. Yeah, good. So this response here is the async method, right? And so now the question becomes, how do we want to validate this? How do we want to validate this? So the brain dead way of doing it is we could look at the method's return type and go, if you are a task or a task of T, you're obviously there. But then we have to handle task of T, task, value task of T. Probably I awaitable. There's a bunch of possibilities. The other thing is we could actually try to implement asynchrony stuff. We could try to implement asynchrony stuff. which means we then need to look this up. And the only thing that makes this a little hard, so the things that are asynchronous, right? So I'll kill execution so we can work through this here real quick. Because the funny part is I helped a colleague with this not that long ago. The things that you can put after this await are things that are awaitable, right? So if we look at task.delay on here, the things that are awaitable contain this get awaiter. Now, get awaiter has to return something that has a signature that has, I'm trying to remember all of the things. It's like on completed, get result, blah, blah, blah. Like it has to match a particular pattern. In fact, that pattern I've written before in my calamities repo. For people who haven't seen this before, this is a repo of code that you should absolutely never duplicate. It's filled with bad stuff. Like I couldn't name it any more explicitly. But for example, you'll note I've got this task class here that is not the real task. But in order to make that task awaitable, it needed to have a getAwaiter method. You'll note that getAwaiter method needs to be something that is, it could be an extension method. It may not be actually on the type itself. That's what makes it hard to do the inspection. Like it is nearly impossible, dare I say completely impossible, to know at runtime what the compiler knew at compile time in terms of whether it's an awaitable type or not. The thing that getAwaiter has to return is also duck typed, and it has to be something that has the same signatures as iNotifyCompletion, which are these things here. It doesn't have to implement the interface, but that interface declares the shape that the compiler looks for. And as long as it sees those members and those members have the right signatures, you can await it. That's the requirement. So it's duck typing all the way down, which is awesome, right? Like the C# team did this intentionally because it gave them lots of ways to do back compat. They could then make things awaitable that were like in the BCL whose basic signatures were fixed that they couldn't change. They could go through and make those things awaitable by just writing some extension methods. Great, huzzah. Even better. But it means trying to detect it here is nigh impossible. So my choices are option A. We detect the stuff that's obvious and we don't worry about the edge cases where somebody tries to do it and we just make it not work. Because we could say that XAML test only is going to support task and task of T. That's probably the path of least resistance. There's very limited reason. We could even support value task and value task of T and call it there. That might be the path of least resistance. I think that's the path that we're going to go because it's rare that anyone's going to invoke this and have their own custom type of anything. Because this is kind of a remote execute thing, I'm kind of okay with doing this. So let's see, private. Oh, wait, why am I doing this? You know what? Copilot, you want to help? You've been lazy all day. Okay. I want to check if the response type is task of T, value task, or value task of T. If it is one of these types, I want to await it and set the value of response to be the result of the task. Go. Impress me, Copilot. Okay. Let's see. That is a functional implementation and a pretty garbage one at that. Yeah. Okay, so there's a number of problems with this. Problem one. Let's see here. Yeah, I know, Izzy, but I just gave a talk on this, and I'm kind of in a co-piloting mode. Um, yeah, I don't like this implementation at all. So configure await false, though good practice is not going to be what we want here. We do want this to be invoke, and we want to make this an async delegate, because I believe with this, yes, it's so there's an important thing to note here, right? So I changed this to invoke and made this an async lambda, but you'll note that that lambda is being converted into a func of task. That is important, right? That will get awaited here. If you do invoke async, I don't believe that's what happens, right? Oh, interesting. Oh, maybe I've got this backwards. Okay, we're gonna leave it there as that for now until, because we've got enough tests to verify that I haven't screwed this up. I do love how it flipped to dynamic here to be able to actually do the invocation. That is kind of hilarious. Did it do that up above? Oh, no, it didn't have to do that above because it's task. I wonder if value task is actually reasonable. Because the whole point of value task is something that's going to execute synchronously in most cases. I don't think we need to support it, because we're already shelling out to serialize and do IPC across the processes. So I think just task is all we care about. This is potentially one of the most horrid implementations I have ever seen. Thank you, Copilot, for being absolute trash. Let's see here. So I really want to just know, because task, I think I can actually get away with if response is task response. Stop doing configure await. Knock it off. Like, we're intentionally touching UI objects. That's a horrible. Oh, here. Maybe we'll do it this way. Configure await true. Like, we intentionally are marshaling ourselves onto the UI thread. Stop flipping out of it. Okay. So we're going to do that. And then I think what I want to do is task response. Because how do I get it into an arbitrary return type? It's using reflection here and going after the result property. Is that what I want? I don't really like that. The dynamic approach is one option. Not sure I like that either. Yeah, bless it. It only gets it from all the rubbish on GitHub. How's it supposed to know that 99% of that is just wrong? Yeah, exactly. The only saving grace it has is that it's technically a curated set of GitHub. It's not the blind full set, because that would be bad. But even the curated stuff is filled with bad code as well. Like, just because it's written by, something with a lot of stars or similar, like, it doesn't make it great code. It just means it was popular. Popular doesn't always mean good. Okay. But the question being is, if it is a task of T, how do I get the result out? Because over here, and I can get away with this because task of T derives from task, right? So I can do this maneuver. The hard part is figuring out, if I'm in this situation and I don't know my type. Microsoft code is generally worse than general GitHub. There are absolutely some repos where that is true. Is the reflection option really the best choice? Because I am kind of wondering if I do this. Because this, this doesn't bother me that much, but I might do task response because I don't like using the method signature completely. I kind of like getting the runtime type. That way I'll await it regardless. Let's see. Let's do this and go type, task type gets that. And then we're going to go here, task type. And then we're going to simplify this. Task type. I don't need that. I don't need that. And then task type get property result. Because that's going to get the runtime one. And I think what I actually want this to be is name of, because we should be able to get away of task. Nope, stop it, stop it. Result. Oh, that's right, I can't do that yet. That's a C# 14 feature. We'll soon be able to do this, where we can just do this, right? So, huzzah. Get value, task response. How does everyone else do it? What do you mean by it, Izzy? Let's see here. So there's what I think is a functional implementation. I think that's a functional implementation. So let's go back to our test. Get rid of this. And let's debug through here, because I think this will get us through here. I'm a little unhappy about the reflection call there. You know what I could do? Okay, we're gonna clean. Assuming this works, I've got an idea on how to clean this up. So that should be a task response. Oh, is it going to shoot itself in the foot? Okay, don't know what that was about. And then it goes here, right? Ooh. Task type. Oh. It's redone it. Oh, I forgot about that. It doesn't return a task. Writing code and making standards. Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracted here. I forgot. The fact that I declared my method with a task return, it doesn't mean that it returns a task. Forgot about that detail. Forgot about that detail. It doesn't return a task. How silly of me. How absolutely insanely, stupidly silly of me. Which is why this signature will not work, and I actually have to rely on the method signature, don't I? To be able to have this work. That is absolutely dumb. I forgot about that. So because the async keyword lets the compiler rewrite your function, the return type from your function is something that derives from task, but it is not itself task. So when you act on the runtime type, that does not work. Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. So now my response is string, right? And so my value type, oh, I need to change this up. Let's see, because I need to change okay, sorry, I see a bug that's about to occur here in just a moment. So this is only valid in the else case. And then up here, what we need to do is, let's see, in the else case here, it's easy because we effectively set our return type to be void. Because this is the functional return type. Oh, stop your complaining. Let's see. Oh, and actually, do we need to set this? I think we do. Let's see. Nope. Stop it. Stop it. Assembly qualified name. There we go. Now, up above here, we actually need to pull out the generic parameter from the task to return it. So in this case, the type that I want to use is going to be task type get generic arguments. And I think it is safe to do sub-0 here because our generic type definition is equal to task with arity 1. And I can say arity 1 because there's not a comma in here, right? Or anything like that. So I think sub-0 is safe here. But we've got to test on both sides of this, so as long as the test pass will be okay. Oh, and I've got a lone XAML test process, which is probably about to hang my build. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Will this work with value tests? A good question, Maggers. No, and I don't know that it needs to. And the reason I say that is if you're using the remote execute here, you're making an IPC call from one process to another to have it call back into a function inside of your assembly. Value tasks are useful when the most common case is synchronous, because value tasks they're very efficient and don't require the same level of allocation as a task when the thing can execute synchronously. But they take a slightly larger hit when they have to convert themselves into a full task for the asynchronous case. So a lot of value task methods are things like checking caches, right? Where if you want to be really optimistic of cache hit, a value task is fine because that probably returns synchronously and can go back quickly. But on the miss case, it's like, well, no, actually I need to go asynchronous. I'm going to need a full task. That way I've got something to await on to have that go through and work. So this is not going to work with value tasks, but I don't know that it needs to because the synchronous case is effectively impossible inside of this library. Okay, and this should be string. Yeah, good. Okay, so that set that up. Serialize the value. Great. And now that should, I think, have just passed. Did it pass or did it fail? It failed. Expected test title actual null. So there's a thing on there's an issue on the deserialization on the other side, but I also want to just debug this side of it real quick to make sure that this works properly. Because this should now hit the opposite of this and then continue on normally and still functionally work. Now it probably continues to pass because there's no deserialization on the other side. Okay, so this one is still failing, but it's probably failing in here. Go to implementation. And it's probably failing here. So I'm somewhat confident that's where I'm looking. Okay, so there's that. Just going to check it one more time to make sure that we got all the things. Okay. Reply value type is null. I'm actually surprised value is empty string. Did I launch the wrong method? My delegate. No, this is task of string, so it got nothing. Something is off. I hit those breakpoints not in the order I expected, which is also surprising, because I expected to get all the way down through here and here. So let's make sure that we're actually getting that far. I wonder if I'm getting bit by that dispatch async. JC, good morning. Good morning. Oh, look at that. It is jumping. See, okay. That's, okay. 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 I thought there was something about, I vaguely recall this guy not waiting for its delegate to completely await. So as soon as it hits here, it's allowing the other one to execute. And we want this thing to completely finish. See, this is why we have these tests. Because it guarantees that I get to see all the things. Okay, so I hit this breakpoint, and I shouldn't hit the other one until after I get done here. Which is good. Value type is set. Value is set. Great. Now when I F5, I should hit the other breakpoint. There we are. Value type comes in here. There we've got the value. Now we deserialize. Now hopefully I just F5 and the test passes. Let's see. Velopack question. Is there any documentation on how to downgrade a release? No. And there probably should be. There probably should be. So there's let me ask a follow-up question. Are you wanting to force a downgrade? Yeah, I just compiled the old release, packed it, and then had the user run setup exe. Yeah, so there's a couple ways of going through and dealing with it, and it depends on what you are looking for. Let me real quick. I don't want to lose this request. I want to new issue, add documentation for downgrading a release. So there's a couple ways of going through, and I'll assign myself to it. I did want to force a downgrade. So there's a couple ways to approach it. And it depends a little bit on how you code the client side of the application. So your update manager, you can pull back a list of releases, right? And if you just use the cheater helper methods, all it does is grab latest and then uses that to, it compares latest with current and says, oh, okay, if latest is greater than current, then there's an update, do the download, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? If you want to be able to have your client or have your server force the client backwards, you need to not leverage the built-in function for doing that. And let me just, I think I can, that's not the Velopack repository. Let me grab the actual Velopack repository. So on the client side, what you can do is you can change it so that it checks for the pending releases, and if the latest release is not equal, right, which is very different than greater than, right? If the current release is not equal to your current one, you can then you can have your client then say, no, I'm going to assume that this is a forced downgrade and push it through, right? Like that is an option. The other way that is a way to do it, because Velopack doesn't necessarily control whether you're going to force an upgrade or a downgrade, right? Like the update manager is in your control to decide what that needs to look like. So here, real quick, just to show what I'm talking about, I guess I can go to the samples, right? So if I open up one of these guys, right? Because the samples just show the simple path for check for updates, but check for updates again does a very simple this, right? There's a new version available, easy, right? This should allow version downgrade, will allow it to go older, right? And then the non-default channel, which is probably not what you wanted. But the issue is these options here are client side. They aren't server side. And so if you're wanting to force a downgrade, you almost have to have a version of your application out there that is already prepped to allow you to force that, right? The other way that that we often do it is you can do a logical downgrade with an upgraded release version, right? So sometimes if I've pushed out a bad release, like V3 is a problem, I want people to go back to V2, I can always recompile V2, packages it up as V4, and push that out. Now, it doesn't, again, unless your update manager is forcing updates onto the users, it still is up to you to decide what you do with this check for updates call and the download updates call, right? There is a little bit of things there. The other thing that you can do, right, if you want to be able to, and there's not, it's kind of intentional we don't do this, but I'll show you where the magical incantation is. Where's the deployment bits? Where is the flow update source? Oh, my flow source. There we are. So this is the update source that we use to contact our hosted service, right? And so this guy here, you will note when it is grabbing this assets feed, it is grabbing a Velopack flow release asset. So a regular Velopack asset is just a POCO, and the data in this POCO should look really similar to your releases.json file, right? It's just these things here. Now, there is no tooling built into like VPK or similar, but if you wanted to write your own update source, there is nothing stopping you from adding, say, an additional property on one of the updates that is like forced downgrade, right? Like if you want to have something where your server can communicate down to your client, again, you have to release a version of your client that's expecting this. But once that's at least out there, you could then go through, edit your JSON file to add some additional property, and then write your own update source. Because the only thing, and you can use the flow one as kind of a template for how to do it. You probably don't need most of this, and so yours could be very simplistic. But the key thing here is when deserializing the releases, you need to tell it to deserialize as your new type that derives from Velopack asset with whatever properties you want. And then your app can use those properties when it retrieves the update, right? Because this update here is just an update info that is being returned back to you, and there's nothing stopping you from making this this Velopack asset class your derived class. But yeah, there's nothing built in to it currently to allow a downgrade. Partly because a lot of apps don't downgrade nicely. Like even if the installer supports the downgrade, the app also has to do it. Because in a lot of cases, like even if you take a .NET application with like an EF migration, right? If you deploy a version of your app with an EF migration that has upgraded your database, you need something outside of your app to ensure that it appropriately downgrades that database. Say it's just a SQLite file, right? In order for that older version to actually work. What you did before of just giving out the old setup exe, that works perfectly fine. And honestly, for a lot of my releases, if I self-host, like Velopack Flow, we actually keep the old setup exes because the setup exe is a bootstrapped executable with your NuGet package added on as metadata. Like that's all it is a bootstrap executable that has metadata at the end of the file. It literally just goes and hunts that metadata out and installs it. And so if all you do is the VPK and take the output of it, you'll end up overwriting that executable every time. I oftentimes will make a copy of that executable with the version number on it. That way, if I ever need to grab a version at a particular, or tell somebody to install at a particular version, they can just grab that setup exe. So the default is it always just makes the one that's going to be latest, because that's what you kind of want to host. But you don't have to do that. You can just bring it back. But yeah, the way you did it worked very smoothly. So if that is acceptable, there's nothing built in to give it to you with like a remote edit on the server. You would have to build it. It's possible. And again, it kind of depends a little bit on what you need to do. And oftentimes, if you want to control it entirely from server side, what we usually suggest is package your old version up with a new Velopack number, and then let the regular update process go through. Because we suspect that a lot of people are just doing it like this, where it's check for updates, download updates, apply and restart. Yeah, no, there's not necessarily a built-in easier process. That is something that we've talked about adding in for Velopack Flow to allow like forced downgrades or similar, because if you're using our hosted service, we can do magic on the back end for controlling that manifest, whereas what you get, you would have to edit yourself. Like Velopack Flow, we don't have a JSON file that we store. We gen it on the fly based upon the state of your app in the database and scanning and various things. So it's very much tied to this idea of as long as I can build it and push it out, it just works. So, but yes, no, you didn't miss anything. But I do agree with you that is something that deserves an entry in the docs at minimum, so people know what is and is not there. Because I think more than just you will probably have that question about what is actually in the box and what isn't. So I think that's perfect. Okay, so I think though my remote execute's now working. Conclusion: host on Flow. I mean, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And I apologize. We keep threatening to release, and I will admit I got hung up between the build conference, my GitHub Copilot talk this afternoon, and then a user group talk before. Most of my free time has been absolutely swamped prepping things. So that has not been as good. Okay, so this handles that, and all I am missing now is a metric ton of overloads. Do I dare let Copilot write the overloads for me? That feels incredibly risky. So we're going to do it. Nope. We're going to make a commit, and then we're going to tell it to do it. That sounds much better. Let's see. Because I think the only reason we had this problem is because need to speak to cybersecurity first, though. Yeah, and JC, if there are, we sort of anticipate that some enterprises may not be thrilled with the idea of hosting apps on a third-party service. I would be very interested in any feedback you might have on if there are things that we could do that would help alleviate that concern for people. I am aware that people may want various security certs and whatnot, which at some point we will probably work our way through, but that's not likely something that we're going to do V1 out the gate. The other kind of ask that I've heard several times from people is they want to be able to effectively have protected update endpoints, right? They want some integration with like their Azure AD, so that only people in their org, like, they don't want an unprotected update endpoint. They want it locked down, and so they want some level of integration with insert auth provider here, which, again, totally fine. I don't think that's something we're going to have out the door for release, but that is something else that I've heard people request. And so it is on our radar of things that might be needed. But if they give pushback, I would love to hear what we could do to actually make that happen. because that would be awesome. Yeah, and that's the thing is if you're using Azure for single sign-on, like I assume you're hosting your releases right now in like a storage account or similar. But my first question would be: is that storage account, does it have a publicly accessible endpoint? Right, like does it have? Because if it's got read access on the blobs, that's slightly less secure than what we do on Flow. Because Flow, it uses authenticated short gen SAS tokens to feed it out, so that anybody grabbing it can't always go back and hit that same one. Just a file share at present. Okay, yeah. So at least a file share though could be kept internal to an org, right? Like if that is a case and it needs to be completely internal, that is an option. The other thing that might be worth pitching that I don't know how well things would go, we toyed with the idea of like an Azure hosted offering of if enterprises wanted to host a version of Flow within their Azure infrastructure, because you can host things like that via the Azure Marketplace, where you effectively package up your version of the app. People buy it from the marketplace. It installs inside of their Azure subscription, and it's theirs. But as a systems builder, you can push updates, and so the Azure Marketplace facilitates a way of me being able to push updates, because Velopack Flow we want to iterate on and keep pushing updates to. It gives me a way of effectively pushing those updates, and then the sysadmins can choose to say, oh yes, I would like Flow v next, right, and have it installed. So that, again, ideas we've toyed around with, and so I'd absolutely love any and all feedback you want to shoot my direction. Let's see, I want overloads for this method that expand the number of T parameters out to T8. Yeah, let's just try that. See if that works. Well, that looks pretty close. Let's see, TT1, actions param1, param1, param2, param3, param4. I think that looks about right. Thank you, Copilot. You have been very helpful. I promise to only mock you a little bit. Okay. That got me to there. I'm going to move this one to the end. Since you did so good last time, Copilot, I'm going to give you another chance. Only because I like you. Let's see. I want overloads for this method that go out to T8. I don't remember. Tuple goes out to T15. That is a good point. Though I think, at least at present, because these are input parameters sent across, I have not yet once needed something that actually went out even this far on the arity. And I think func has a limit. I don't know that func goes out. Why not a parametric of T? Because all of these things are shelling out to this underlying one that is just arbitrary number here. So these are just convenience methods wrapping around this one of being able to do this. This one I actually think could just be params. But I think I run into small issues of casting if I change that one blindly. But these are just the common use cases, because at the end of the day, all of these things are just here to be able to bring this thing back. Whoa, what did we do here? I messed something up. And by I messed something up, I mean Copilot clearly is an idiot. this is the action one. So it would be the one up here. Let's see. Task of T result. Oh, it dropped the original. Why did it do that? Copilot, you were doing so well and I didn't hate you. And now I kind of do. See, you're not like I need that still. You can't get rid of that overload, like the one I was actually using. Let's see. Doesn't parametric of T array also need ambulance of T array? Depends if the code is already dead or not. Yeah. Sorry, I need to fix this one. Yeah, because the other thing that I always try to remind myself is that this library really has a single consumer. And it is material design in XAML. Like, I've seen other libraries that are actually using it, which more power to them, right? If somebody else wants to leverage this and get usages out of it, great. I am not going to stop you. But I also build this for its primary consumer. I'd contemplated using it to build actual UI tests for apps, which I know I've seen a handful of people do, and it can work for that. It's just because it's designed to test individual segments of the UI, not necessarily whole apps. Depending on your app's startup, it can potentially be problematic. Okay. There's that. We're just going to amend. Sounds great. And then the last thing I want to do is I need to bump my version so I get a release for it. So do I? Do I need to? I don't know that I do because we bumped it last time and I don't know that I kicked a full release. Let's see. Test 8, test 9. Where is my push NuGets? So NuGet version. I guess I should go and look and see. Did I release 1.3 or not? I don't remember. If I didn't, then we'll just tack on there. So I didn't release 1.3 yet. So we can let this guy go and test it here. So we will send this, and then as long as that works, create pull request. I clicked the wrong button, didn't I? Yep, I did, like a dummy. XAML test. Let's see. So the source generators, that was the stuff we were looking at before, which I will circle back to at some point. And then I'm just going to enable auto merge squash. And as long as that passes, we'll just send it. We will just send it. And then that will push all the way out to NuGet as a preview release. And I think on my material design branch, because yeah, that'll fix that error there. I think I'm already referencing a preview package for XAML test. Yeah, I'm on 602 already, so I'm perfectly happy to take a preview NuGet package here and get away with it, because that seems okay, and that'll fix that problem. Okay, so next issue, what failures did we get on this from our latest run? Because we know we've got the one. Do we have more than the one? Okay. Test has timed out after 20 minutes. So I am wondering if I need to address that. Let's go back and look at the text block one or text box ones, because those ones we saw hang. and I want to confirm or deny whether we're still experiencing the hangs. Because if we are still experiencing the hangs, that is problematic. Izzy, have a good one. Prove that the smoking gun is hardware and not the software. Well, if you wrote the software, then I believe you. Okay, so this is the problem child. Who is it? So this one here is hanging. So we want to take a look at this guy. Close window. That will kill that off. Validation error. So you are doing something bad. Boy, I don't see a hang here. Like I see this wait for, but the default behavior of wait for is try for some number of seconds and then come back. There's not a lot that's magical in here. So I guess let's launch this and catch it at a breakpoint, and then let's figure out where exactly it's hanging. I think that's going to be the key question: is where is this guy getting hung up? Load user control. Great, great. Left click. Wait for, and I'm going to put a breakpoint here and a breakpoint here. So we get inside the wait for. That's fine. Default air view. Blah blah blah. Should probably turn on just my code again, because this is going to get ugly. So let's stop this because I don't want to deal with that. Enable just my code. Then let's debug one more time. I want to be able to hit F10 and not end up deep in the bowels of the BCL. Okay, so we know we get down here as far as the left click. Great. We know we get inside. Object reference not set to the instance of an object. What do we got going on here? What do we got going on here? Test context current. This guy, how would this ever work? That is okay. So we're gonna fix that. So the issue here, and this is one of those weird areas of XAML test, right? So I've got this validation updates control. It lives in my UI test project, which means it can access things like tunits, test context current. The problem is this control gets loaded by the WPF app that it starts in a different process. So even though this thing is here, this is never going to work. Right? No, shut up. Don't help me. That is actually what we want. Okay, so let's debug again, because I wonder if that was the issue. Is I'm sure I just auto-coded that and went, oh yeah, of course, we need to pass the cancellation token, without actually thinking about the fact that this user control isn't actually, need to kill the process. Is that user control isn't actually something that lives inside of that process. Nope, I get it. You were unhappy. You couldn't restart. Process is dead now. Try again. Oh, I guess it's not all the way dead. The window's dead. Let's see. Then we'll test. See, a couple rogue ones. And task. I've at times written code. Remove using in that file. That's the thing. There is no using. That's the other part is, and I like TUnit includes, if we go and look at, if we go and do open containing folder, right? If I back this sucker up And I don't know how I feel about this. I think I like it, but I'm not sure I do. Where is the global usings? Global usings, right? If I drag this sucker in, right, you'll see T-unit in here, right? I didn't add T-unit in here. T-unit puts itself in the global usings, right? And there may be an option to turn it off or similar, but it's in there. Oh, got it. Oh, clean up the data annotation. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. But the fact that T-unit puts itself in the global usings is kind of a blessing and a curse. Like, I like it, but it does mean, like, it's one of those situations where I would like to be able to ban it. I wonder, can you do that with a banned API analyzer? Can you ban a usage per namespace? I don't think you can. I think you have to do it per project. Yeah, so now the test is actually running without hanging. That is probably, I don't know if it passed. Oh, it did. Good. Okay, so now I should be able to run this. So this will actually probably fix the hang, which will make the tests actually not take 20 minutes to run because they were probably getting hung up on that. I'm actually tempted to do a quick hunt for usages of that cancellation token and just make sure that I haven't done that anywhere else. And specifically done it anywhere else in the user controls. Because that would be the one big kicker there. Come on, that's looking better. That's looking better. Okay. Good. And when this is done, we're going to go check that XAML test pipeline and see if it released all the way out or not. How many more you got left in here? That's all of them. Okay, so all the text box tests now should be fine. That's good. Let me do brief gander at this. Why did the test fail? Let's see. One failed test. Where is it? Show it to me. I think I have a flaky test, but I am unhappy about that. On remote execute, can execute delegate. Well, that's scary. Because that's something I literally just changed, so we should probably go look at that because that feels like an important test to look at. Oh, this is the app level one, so this is not the visual element. Oh, good. Well, I guess, honestly, we probably should add overloads to this one that are similar. Okay, well, it caught a legit test failure, so that's good. We should probably add async tests to this as well. Let's see. Expected actual ENUS. Okay. That is interesting. So I kind of want to grab it here and here and see why. Cutie, welcome. Did you stream tonight? When I looked earlier, it didn't show that you were online. Okay, so current culture, that got set. Okay, that's good. That does a thing. We are a configure await true, so we shouldn't be changing threads. And then we get down here. Culture info. Current culture is not what we expect. What is current thread culture here? Interesting. So what thread are we on? Okay. So I need to go back and figure out. Delayed due to tech issues. Oh, that is horrible. That is horrible. Delayed 2 hours. So you did actually then get a stream up. So yay, that part's good, I guess. Project is coming along good. I have, unfortunately, my tests have pointed out that I'm an idiot. And I'm not entirely clear how I'm an idiot yet. Um, We're at, so debugging goes through like the 5 stages of grief, and the 5 stages of debugging are not as different as one would hope. Manage thread ID 1. We set it. I blame AI. Well, it's about to be a Copilot problem here in a moment. I just don't trust it to actually solve it. And then it hits here, but none of it's like it's not going down a different code path. The only thing that changed was that, which is interesting. It's interesting. And then we're on the same thread ID here. Like we haven't changed threads, but the culture isn't different. Wait. It's, huh? But we set the culture to not English. Let's grab it here. Right? Your culture has been changed. Current culture, current UI culture. Right? So that's fine. Both of those are different. Is alive, is background, manage thread ID, normal thread state running, great. Like all of that is perfectly normal. And then when we come back around into here, like this does the remote execution, and this is the exact same code. This is the exact same code. Okay, this is going to look weird, but bear with me for a moment. I'm curious if this fixes it, because that was what we changed. And I am wondering if I'm going to feel really dirty here in a minute. Like if you write code like this, you should feel bad. Like that is ugly. Oh, dang it. I got a XAML test process loose. Die. There you go. Okay. Let's try this again. Run. Like on one hand, the test is failing appropriately. Weird. Okay, and I just want to confirm, if I go back here, right, this test passes, right? Like, I'm not crazy. Like, that's step 1, is always confirm that you can recreate the problem, because it's not always obvious what the problem is. Okay, so my change breaks it. On one hand, glad I wrote a test. On the other hand, what the heck? What the heck? Okay, so we have a remote execute that uses the application to change the culture. We then have another remote execute. And I want to do thread, current UI culture. Do that maneuver. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. All right, so we'll nest that all the way through. We've changed the UI threads culture. And right, like I want to, this is backed by the current thread. Like, I'm not crazy, right? Well, I don't think I'm crazy. What would change the threads culture back? And why would making the dispatcher asynchronous change that? Why? Especially since it doesn't, none of these things actually hit. Like, it's got to be the presence of that. Like, that has to be the issue, right? Like, if I just comment this out, invoke async, right? Like, if I just comment this sucker out and do that without doing anything else, right? This test passes, I think. Right? Am I losing it? Okay, that test passes. What the heck? Why is changing this to an asynchronous method breaking how the thread gets set? Because the invoke is before the await. There's no, like, this whole front bit runs synchronously. Like, everything before the await would run synchronously. This doesn't even get called in this test. It's literally the fact that I did this. That is like, okay, let's just confirm, right? If I put that on there, this test fails. Right? Like, obviously we get the warning because we added async and not yeah, those 5 characters are breaking this test. What the heck? Like, what? Okay, and if I do await, right? If I await the await, because reasons, like, even though that's an asynchronous delegate, it runs synchronously. Still fails. Still fails. What the heck? Like, what? Right? Like, the culture has been changed on this thread. We have hit a breakpoint. We can see that the current culture is like, and now obviously the current culture is the US. What the heck? I huh? Okay, Copilot, let's have a little chat. Let's have a little discussion because I am clearly an idiot. I do not know what is going on. Let's see if you can shed any light in this. Okay. And we're going to pop you open. I need to pin you so you stop closing. All right, so active document. And I want you to have access to this document too. I want to feed you both of these. Okay. Oh, you're going to make me do it the hard. Oh, yuck. Files, and I want visual. Stop it. Visual tree service invocation. Great. Okay. Smarty pants. This test fails when remote invocation uses this code but passes when it uses, I'm going to just dial this back. When it fails, the culture does not appear to be set. What might cause this? Okay, impress me, Copilot. Impress me, because I believe that you suck at debugging. This is subtle but important difference in how WPF dispatcher interacts with async delegates and thread culture. Okay? Invoke async, the Lambda runs synchronously on the UI thread. Okay? The UI threads is preserved as it is the same thread as the WPF application. Great. Await, dispatcher, invoke async. The other schedules the start of the async Lambda on the UI thread. The first part of the async Lambda runs on the UI thread, but after the first await inside the Lambda, the continuation may run on a thread pool thread. You are wrong. I did configure await true. It will marshal back. On net core, net 5, including net 8 and net 9, the default behavior in a library is to not capture the synchronization context. You would be mostly correct, except for we're not in a library here. We're in a running WPF application, you moron. Unless you use configure await true, which we did, or omit configure await false, which we technically did as well. However, in some test environments or custom dispatchers, the blah, blah, blah. Okay, WPF's dispatcher does not automatically throw the thread's culture the continuations of async methods. This could be relevant. Does not automatically throw the thread's culture to continuations of async methods. When you use a synchronous Lambda, everything runs on the UI thread, so the culture is correct. When you use an async Lambda, after the first await inside the Lambda, the continuation may run on a thread that does not have the UI thread's culture set, blah, 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 blah. If you must use an async Lambda, you can ensure that by capturing it and restoring it manually, or by ensuring the continuation runs on the UI thread. What? Always runs on the UI's thread, culture is correct. Continuation may run on a different thread, culture may be lost. But we aren't hitting a continuation. There are no awaits in the code path that is executed. Come on, Copilot, figure something out. There are no waits in the code, then the difference in behavior is due to how the dispatcher handles async versus sync delegates. That I could believe. Even if the async Lambda is not truly asynchronous. Why cultures differ. Let's see. Oh, dropped too quick. Let's see. The delegate is synchronous and always runs on the UI thread inheriting its culture. Great. Even if the Lambda is async but contains no wait, the compiler still generates a state machine and returns a task. Agreed. WPF's dispatcher invoke async will execute the start of the async Lambda on the UI thread, but the continuation, even if trivial, may run on a different thread depending. No, it is. It is lying to me. The default culture for new threads is not inherited by creating a thread, but from the process or OS. So if a continuation runs on a thread pool thread, it may not have the UI thread's culture. It is not a thread pool thread, you moron. It like the continuation thread is STA. It has the same. Okay. The continuation thread is STA. It has the same thread ID at the beginning and end of the Lambda. Like, I don't know how much more I can continuously tell you. Always use a synchronous delegate with dispatcher invoke async. If you must, ensure the entire code path runs on the UI thread or manually set the culture at the start of your Lambda. The idea of manually setting the culture is interesting. I wonder if that is... this rules out thread switching as the cause of the culture issue. Yes, what I was trying to tell you. Even with the same, there is a subtle difference in how the compiler generates a state machine. Agreed. But that doesn't answer why this is happening. The Lambda is invoked. It returns a task immediately. But the state machine's entry point may not preserve all of the thread local states, such as in the same way as a synchronous delegate. Is that really the entirety of the problem? Is that really the entirety of the problem? In .NET Framework, culture is always thread local. So that's a fun one here, right? So in C# we have the concept of statics, right? And generally with a static variable, you get one. Like there is one shared static instance for your process. Put a little asterisk next to that, but functionally think of it that way, right? But we also have the concept of thread local, which means you can have a static variable, and if it's marked as thread local, it's not one per process, it's one per thread, which is really fun when multiple threads start running your code, and it gets really confusing. Very confusing. And then, because that's not messed up enough, we also have async local, which is tied to the async and await and will flow through that, which is convenient. It can be very convenient at times because then you don't care about thread, but you care about the execution context and where that variable gets linked into. Even if the thread ID is the same. So this seems like it might be, it's cited a source. So let's go look at its source. Where'd that link go? Current UI culture. Like this is wanting me to preserve it and then restore it. But I almost like if you must use an async lambda, manually capture and restore the culture at the start of the lambda. But this isn't right. Like I don't want to capture it. I want it to come through correctly. Like it's not staying preserved. Like it's being changed. The thread local culture. And I have a hard time believing this is a thread local problem if it's the same thread. Did you just say you can have static instances per async awaited? Victor, you ready to watch your head hurt? You ready to watch your head hurt? You actually are using this feature. You just don't know it. Because you're using a very bad class that I wrote. This lovely little guy here. So yes, and just to clarify, this is your async local and thread local. Right? So you'll note these are both static fields, right? Nothing fancy about it here. And you'll note we come in to this async method A, right? It sets both values to value 1. Async method B, right? So we jump down here and it writes out the values. Entering B, here's the values, blah blah blah. Await, and then you'll note there's nothing set here, but this is I think the intent is a console app where the continuation after the await is probably a different thread, right? And so we can see here entering asynchronous method B, value 1. Async local value is 1. Thread local is value 1. Great, right? We then do exiting, or I guess it does entering twice because it goes here and here. Because you'll note this isn't awaited till down here. So we come in here and it goes asynchronous method B, value 2, value 2. And then the key difference is going to be on this exiting, right? Expected value 2, got value 2. Thread local is empty, right? Expected value 1, got value 1. Thread local is empty. And the reason is because this assignment occurs on whatever the starting thread is, right? We'll call it thread 1, right? This occurs on thread 1, goes in, executes method B, gets all the way to this await, and goes, oops, I'm going asynchronous. Thread 1, go do something else. Oh, I'm done with my delay. Who's next? Thread 2 picks it up. Thread 2 picks it up and goes down here. And so that thread local storage is a different value per thread, right? Different value per thread. Now, one of the awesome things about thread locals is you get into this situation where this is thread safe by definition, right? Because you always only, like, you can't flow the value to a different, like, thread safety it comes into play when you have two threads touch the same thingy. Well, if there's a separate value per thread, you can't have effectively both threads trying to play with the same toy anymore. It's like you all get one. All of you little kids get to have your own copy of this toy and play with it, and no one can share. You all just play with your own. Whereas async local is like, you know what? I know something about async and await, because when you hit an await, it has to capture up all of your local variable states so that after the await, it can restore them, right? So like it has to capture this expected value to know when I come back after this await here, I have to repopulate expected value because that's a local variable and I needed to have the right thing. So as part of that async and await framework, there is the, I think it's execution context that contains the storage. But it captures those variables, stores them, and then when it comes back, it restores them all back into their appropriate places. But because it's a different thread, this then is not set because its assignment was always done on this thread. Worth noting, that's not always true. If you were to take this code and throw this into a WPF application, this is not the output that you would get. Because the default behavior of an asynchronous method in something like a UI-based application is configure await true, the thread after the await will be the same thread. Only because it in a UI application, if you put an async in the middle of, say, a click handler, you want to come back to that same UI thread because it's like, oh, I do the asynchronous thing, and then I set those variables back into my UI. And so to save on everybody needing to marshal back to the UI every time, the default behavior when there is a UI thread is to just go back to it if that's where you started from, right? Which is generally convenient. The disadvantage is it's a potential performance bottleneck because there is only one UI thread and it means you're doing work on the UI thread, which is why you'll see the recommendation to do configure await false to say, rather than relying the UI thread, right? Like, do you always have to ask the head guy to do the work or can anybody do the work, right? Configure await false says, you know, I don't need the head guy to do this. I just got some stuff I need to get done. Whoever's available next is great. Right? That's what configure await false gets you is who's ever available next, I'd like them to do a little work for me. Great, right? But it's like, well, to actually post that work on the UI, yeah, you need that head honcho UI thread dude. But yes, you are correct. So there is async local and thread local. Use them only to do good. And for Victor, for fun, if you want to hunt your current code base, you will find instances of async local littered into particular classes that I may have my fingers all over. My bad. Like something that starts with automocker and ends in the word resolver. That's your hint. Worth noting, async local isn't preserved inside of, say, a task.run, right? Because that's intentionally a different asynchronous scope. So, worth noting. So if you ever want to break an async local, you wrap something in a task.run and watch it crash and burn. Okay, now, Copilot, though. The behavior that I am seeing does appear to match the description here. Oh, that link was just an automatic. So, how can I preserve changes to thread culture that is set inside of an async lambda? Because really, at the end of the day, this entire setup was built because Nikolai wanted to test culture differences, and I would be very annoyed if I could not do so. Culture info are backed by async. Okay, let's go. I'm tired of it telling me this. Let's go look. Let's go look. You are telling me this guy is backed by an async local. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. So this is the other way you can declare a thread static. Oh no. Oh no. No, no, no. Oh. You hurt me so badly. Wait a minute. It isn't using the async local field anywhere. Hold on. This is the methods for occurrence. The following order for WinRT return the current user profile language, the current thread culture that has already been set using one of the current culture, current UI culture. The thread culture, if the user is already set one of the default thread culture, default is okay. This is interesting to me. You'll note the setter is assigning to this field here. You'll note something about this field. It's used in the setter, but not the getter. What am I missing? What am I missing? So when you do current culture set, it doesn't change the current. What? Okay, .NET is not broken. .NET is not broken. .NET is not broken. That okay. Axiom number 1. I am not understanding something. There is no way this is broken. I am missing something. That has to be the case. Right? Like all of these are static volatile. Great. Excellent. If you ever, Victor, if you want to make your head hurt a little bit more, go ahead and pull up the language spec for the word volatile. You'll get to learn all about memory barriers. And if that doesn't make your head hurt, because the dirty little secret is that the runtime may choose to not execute your code in the order it's written. If that doesn't terrify you a little bit, I don't know what does. I don't under, huh? Okay, okay. Thread, and what is the assignment that we are doing in here? Right, app test. Thread.currentCulture. Right, that's what does thread.currentCulture do? Okay, so thread current culture reaches in to current culture to bring it across, right? And it has this require current thread. Great, fine. Just checks for cross-thread exceptions. JC, I absolutely did miss you. And I'm back at work. We are having a field day of trying to understand what is going on. So this test starts failing, and we have confirmed that the difference between a passing test and a failing test is literally those 5 characters. And it appears that the issue is around culture and the way culture info is flowed through asynchronous context. That is what it appears to be, but we are working through this. So thread, okay, so setting it on the thread, literally the thread just reaches into culture info, current culture assignment, right? And this sets the async local current culture. I am confused why culture info assignment sets this field, but then the getter reads not this field. Like, am I like? I'm very, very confused by that, because that seems wrong that it would do this, right? And that's the only usages of this. It's those three are literally the only usages that this is reporting. Like, how would this ever work? Because the thing is, we have a version of this test that works, which means at some point, doctor, so don't raise your hand. Yeah, like we've now reached the stage in the debugging process, right? If we're going to go back through those 5 stages of grief, where we've gone through the why is it broken, right? There's no way it could be my code. We've gotten to the, there's a bug in the .NET framework. And then now we've reached the how did it ever work stage of our debugging grief. Yeah, I like, huh? Like, okay. So it comes in here. If it is null, it does a compare exchange. Like, you'll note this is actually a double check, right? Because this null check is just for the easy case, and then this one here compares the ref value of the field against null. If it is null, it assigns a new one in. Otherwise, we get the current value returned back to us. In both cases, this one is safe to access, and they can do the bang not equals value, which is a complicated way of doing all of that assignment. But now it makes me wonder why, how. Okay, so here's what we're going to try then. Here's what we are going to try. Because I know where it is, I want to look at it here. And I want to look at culture info in both of these places and see what the heck is going on. Because there has to be something, right? Like, there's something changed. Okay, for anybody who follows Brian Regan. Okay, so if I look here and I go down and I want to look at non-public members, right? So we have not set anything. Where do I get my static members? Oh, probably under the static non-publics. That would make sense. Okay, so we have our async local current culture, right? That is there, right? Default thread current culture. So we're going to go there, async local culture, and S user default culture, current thread culture. I think those are all of them. Okay, so there's that. We are going to go step, S current thread culture gets changed. I'm a little surprised this one isn't. Oh, probably because I didn't pin the value. I just pinned the other one. Okay, so that one there The current thread's culture is changed. That makes sense. We get to the next one. That value is different despite it being the same exact thread. Wow, this hurts me on a whole new level. Like, I don't want to maintain my own culture variables. I could, but I don't want to. That makes me feel very, very sad. Because I could go through and grab a hold of them ahead of time. Because I could pull the current culture out, preserve it, go into the asynchronous delegate, do the work, and then preserve them again on the way out. Like, that just feels so disgusting. That feels very, very, very disgusting. Because this here, okay, so I want to, yeah, test failure. I get it. The assert doesn't work. Okay, debug one more time. I have a hard time swallowing this because something about my understanding of threading doesn't match what we're clearly seeing. Okay, so I have made an object ID on the async local variable here. I'm going to make an object ID on this one. And so the key thing here with an object ID, this is globally unique. Right? So the debugger is now watching this particular instance. It's given it the identifier $2. The other one's going to be $1. But it means that we now have a effectively a global reference to this guy, right? This has gone in here, and I am going to make an object ID reference to here. Okay, we're going to pull that guy out. Right, if we look here, that is $3. And it literally puts back 2. And it puts it back probably because of the current state. Man, I guess we have to hack around it. Is there a better way of doing this? So, okay, this is going to be hacky, and please don't hate me. I want to check the return value on this delegate. I think, yeah, I think what we do is the following. I think what we do is we go with culture info, current, UI culture, right? And then we go await application dispatch, and we yank those suckers out. Cannot await void. We don't need to await void, but we could invoke async, right? But we actually don't need to await or do anything, right? And then if we come in here, because I'm curious what this will be, if this will show the changed value or not. And then I think what we do is we do this and we do this. Use of unassigned local variable. Null bang. I just need to shut it up because it doesn't realize, it can't guarantee that this delegate is invoked before this delegate, but we know that practically it will be. So we just Tell it to shut up. So I am curious if this one here, what the values will be coming into this, right? Like, will this delegate see the updated ones that were set in the first pass? Okay. Let's see what we get here. Because remember, these are like, this is all executing in the same process space. So let's see. Currently is ENUS. UI culture is ENUS. This is the first pass in, so this is expected for now, right? We come in here. This is the guy that's going to do the change, does the details. Got it. We come back in here. Current UI culture is different. Okay, so here's what I'm curious of. If I go all the way down here, right? So return reply. At the very end of this delegate, can I do, realize my big head's in the way. Current equals, right? That goes like that. And then UI culture looks like that. And then if that works, can I then propagate them appropriately like this? Like, this is uglier than all get out. I hope this doesn't work because I don't want to ship code like this. But I am now curious if this works and this works. I am curious if that works. And I left a breakpoint at the end, didn't I? Where I capture it? Yeah, good. Good. Because I'm curious what the thread shows down here. Because again, we aren't hitting any of the awaits. Okay, so we come in here, we change the current culture. Great. We come here, we read the current culture. This is still showing changed. Okay. That makes me feel better. Now we come over here, and this guy changed. Okay? Now it actually is persistent. I hate everything about this. I hate everything about this because now the test is going to pass. Dang nabbit. I hate everything about this. Do I ship this? Like, that is ugly. That is ugly. All because of these. The part that's baffling me is I still don't fully understand what's different. You know what? Let's grab this in here. I want to understand what's different. Because when it comes through, the async local variable is what is different. The async local is what is different. And there must be special handling around the asynchronous stuff to make it so that this has to be different. I wonder what happens if I do this. Can we do this? Because I think we can come in here and I think we can do request. And I think I can do this. I think I could type it. Yeah, you are probably going to lose your mind. Um, oh right, it can't pass in the base class. That's probably something we can address though. Um, yeah, we can probably address the application problem. That's not as big of an issue. It's everything else that's not going to be static because all of these things are instance based. So it would need to pass in what? Visual tree service. Actually, you know what? Before we get carried away, let's not do anything rash. Well, let's do something very rash, but let's do it in a nice way. Um, can I do a static one here? Get the um get the appropriate values. Static async, right? This is what I want. I want to get the right values here. And I want to be able to pass in a visual tree service, VT, and a remote invocation request. Because if I can get both of these in, problem solved, right? And then this guy here is going to need to take in the parameters. So I pass in this and request, and then we see if that works. I don't know what is going to happen. One of the dumbest issues I've ever seen. I'm surprised I haven't been bit by it more. Okay, so we can make this work. This works. And your current culture is ENUs. And the key part is there's an async keyword. So I'm curious what's about to happen when we get on the second pass through, right? Because these are still ENUS. Great. Changes culture, does the needful, right? Comes back in, right? We get here and the outer ones, oh, because they've been replaced, right? Ha 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 ha. Look at that. Look at that. And then the return value of this is what? This is invoke delegate object. So what if this is arbitrary delegate? Can I await it? Can I do an await in here and get away with this? Something tells me the answer is going to be no, because I also need to be able to return um foo. Like I need to be able to get something back out. String bar gets await. Like I need to be able to do this. And I think I can get away with a direct task cast. I don't know though. Cannot implicit. Oh, task of string. I think this is gonna work. Like this, I am now down in the weeds of something I have not done before. And I think that. Okay, don't care as much about you. So what, like, I assume you are going to be US still. Yeah, 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 great. Great, do the needful, change the thing. Okay, come back in. Right, we got the new value, great. Come in here. Right, we check it, this is interesting because it is a static async. Why does that change it though? Why does that change it? There is a hole in my knowledge bothering me. But what this means is we don't need to do this garbage here. Can we get foo back out? I assume we can. I guess the question is getting bar. Right? Oh, I kind of step out, step out, step out, step out. I should be able to look at bar here. Bar is the correct value. Okay, so I think what we can do then to make this work is we can change this to static. We can change this to this. Right, we can pass the values in. I'm going to call it service instead. Right, and the return value from this is going to end up needing to be task of whatever the response object is. This reply. We're going to put this reply here, and we're going to go reply equals. And actually, we're going to do remote invocation reply. We're going to just declare in line. Then we're going to move the creation of this inside of the delegate. We're going to get rid of this absolute garbage of code. And we're going to get rid of this culture setting stuff. That all goes away. This all goes away. This all goes away. We need a second closing paren here to handle the cast, and then we need to pass in the collection of items, which is going to be this and request. That gets us into there. Now, for most of these things, I think we can just do service dot, not services, service dot, and that should get us back onto the instance in question without too much of a headache. And we name the same thing request for what it was before. Then all we have to do down here is return reply. And I think that solves it. All right, so if we run this, please work. It would make me very happy to see a green check mark right here. Of course not. Let's see. That did not work. So the question becomes why? Still have the await there. Move unnecessary parentheses. That's fine. So I'm curious to look at these calls to see where the timing of this is falling apart. Why? Why do you hate me so much? Okay, so it gets all the things, does the needful. It's going to invoke the method before it hits any asynchronous garbage, right? So it does that, hits the thing, sets the culture. We are in Dutch or whatever DK is. We come in here, we get our value type, assembly qualified name, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's happy, everyone's happy, everyone's happy. Get out here, we get out here, we return a reply. Reply should be fully populated. An empty string, but that's okay. I think that's what's expected here. Yeah, because it's a void returning method, so empty string is the expected reply. Step out, we step out, we've got an object, right? It's got a void, empty value. That all makes sense. Great, great. Send it. We come back in. I guess we've lost a bit of our debug code that we had in there, but we come back in, we come back through here, we come in here, we jump in, and our current culture is flipped back. What the heck? Didn't we just see this work? I wonder if it was working because of the, I bet you it was working because of the assignments that we had previously with the ugly garbage code. That is so stupid. Okay, well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this and put it back the way it was for the moment. The ugly, ugly piece of garbage code. Because I think this is only working because of the reassignment down below. Which means the okay, that actually makes me feel mildly better because it means the static lambda versus not doesn't make any difference. But this reads the right value. Oh, but it reads the right value because it was assigned here, right? If I turn this off, but I don't reassign back inside of a synchronous delegate, the asynchronous delegate won't see it. I believe, so my assertion here then is this test will fail because we aren't reassigning it back. And if I uncomment that code, the reassigning it back will work. This is so freaking ugly. So it should be US right now. Right? Great, great, great. English US. Everyone's happy. There we go. We change color or culture. Come in here and it should be English US. English US. Yeah, so it's only working on the other ones because of the assignment. When you do the assignment inside of an asynchronous lambda, where it is assigning is problematic. So, okay, that's what I want to understand. What is changing here? Because we know the other one, we see it assign the asynchronous local. What is it assigned differently here that makes it magically work? It must be assigning a different field value or a different async local value, I guess. Okay, so it does the thing, sets the thing. So, right, so the S current thread culture is changed. Now, if we look here, and I guess I really want to look at culture info, but this will work. We can get there from here. Right, and so we come down here, static members, non-public. This one doesn't have thread UI culture is set. Interesting. So now when I do the assignment, right, if I go here and look at this, and I come here and look at static members, and I look at non-public members, and I scroll down, where has it actually assigned it? S current thread culture is now assigned. But what assigned S current thread culture? This one got assigned instead. Oh no. That's the difference? Oh, nobody's gonna see that. Oh, that is so brutal. That is so brutal. Okay, so here's what's going on. Async local, the class, has a value changed callback that you can register. Culture info is and this is the link why we don't see the tie back to the value here. When the async local value changes, this callback method is invoked. This callback method is a static function that is simply assigning to a static field. It is assigning to a static field that is declared thread static, meaning a separate instance per thread. So by doing this thing in an async lambda, we are ending up with a different thread static variable, and the other one doesn't get assigned. That is bloody brutal. That is absolutely bloody brutal. Okay, well, Nikolai, if you're watching, this was a beating to take. But we're going to leave this in place, and I think what I would like to do, so we're going to get rid of some of this debugging code. And I don't think we need to assign current. We'll bring this test back down to its simplistic state. All right, so this should now go green. I have that threading copying the culture around garbage. There we go. That goes green. What I would like to add in here as well, though, is a couple tests for asynchronous with async callback, can execute delegate, task, and we're going to come in here and go await task delay 1. Something small but yet quick. Let's see here. This guy should. Guess I need to learn how to spell the word with again. Why are you not landing on the other overload? Oh, because this is a separate set of extensions, isn't it? Yes, yes, yes. There is a different set of remote execute methods. These ones here we need to duplicate as well. And let's see. I would like to create this one. And I would like it to be here. And the signature of this guy is actually going to be func of t. Oh no, func ask. Right? Because before this was action. No, Copilot. Reject solution. Here, you want to do something useful, Copilot? No, that's not what. No, stop helping. What part of shut up and just listen for the directions? Create overloads for this method that go out to T8. I think this is what I want. I think this is what I want. Come on. Okay. Did you delete the original one? You did. You did. Why? Can you not, Copilot? Like, is there a reason you hate me so much that you would... Like, I appreciate you doing this, but I'd really appreciate you not screwing it up too. That'd be great. Let's see here, and then I need overloads. So that should handle the first case, right? So this should now land on App remote execute, because this is a task with one parameter. Oh, is that correct? Yes. Func of the action. So it should be landing on this one. Because T1. Oh, it's because I didn't clear this. Wait. I dropped. What did I do? How did I get rid of? I deleted it out of the func, but didn't functionally get rid of it anywhere else, which is a problem. Okay, now it should resolve. Copilot, seriously, stop it. You are not being helpful at the moment. Still not landing on the right overload, and you are being annoying. So wait a minute. What is the T here then? We don't need a T. Why do we have a T on these other ones? Is this just been a mistake? I think this was a mistake. We aren't leveraging T anywhere. We are not leveraging T anywhere. This should now be the overload that it lands on. Right? Because this guy should be no, the T1 is the one that it should be landing on. It should have func of T1 task. Func T1. T1 is application. Task returning delegate. What am I missing? Remote execute. Oh, because it's expecting a. Oh, I've modified this incorrectly. T1 is the. Okay, so hold on. I need to go back. I do need the T. It's just not obvious why. Well, hold on. Okay, this is where my head starts to spin for a moment while I process through my generics. Because when we do it at the application level, we need to specify app. And the first T parameter in our delegate isn't one that gets passed in from the caller. It's one that gets specified by the remote running process. So, okay, Copilot, come here. I need you to think for me for a second because my brain is hurting. So we do need this change, discard. But yes to all. Thanks. We do need this one because the T in this case is going to be application and T result is going to go through here. Down here, we do need a T. And this is going to be T task. This is going to be T. This is going to be T. Because param is the value that gets passed from the test side. T is the value that comes in from the app side and builds that up. And now it resolves properly. Let's go async task here. Await task delay. We're just going to make our life as miserable as possible with this test. Now that I know how painful culture is to work with on a thread. Think I can get away with this now, can't I? Think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Boy, there's something about that asynchronous context that still isn't sitting right. On remote execute. What is it failing on? Oh, assert R equals false. Okay, so that doesn't quite play nice. How can we write a reasonable thing? Maybe this is a bad test. Maybe this is a bad test because you should never be doing the culture stuff in something else. And I think this might be good enough for now. Yeah, let's just add in the extra overloads on the app mixins and push it and call it a day. Call it a day. So, let's see. So on the remote execute T result, I want to do something similar to this, but I want it to be here, and I want it to be task of T result. Right, and so I want that built, and Copilot generate overloads for this method out to T8. Preserve this method because I'm getting annoyed at having to rewrite it every time. So if you could just do that, Copilot, that'd be great. Come on. There we go. Did you do the one thing I asked you to do? No, of course not. I asked you to preserve the function. Did you preserve it? No, you did not. You deleted it and overwrote it. Now, I believe it's probably because I had it selected and you were too dumb to realize that that means you shouldn't overwrite it. But you know what? Still annoys me. Still annoys me. Okay, that gets me there. That gets me there. There are the overloads. Yeah. Go ahead. Summarize that change for me, Copilot. Hey, yeah, that is the understatement of the year. Okay, we're gonna push that. We're gonna run it. Hopefully this merges. I hope to be able to get this done soon, but it feels like every time I feel like I'm getting close, I'm just a little bit further away. So this is going to continue to be an adventure for us. On the note of the tab control PR, I think I'm going to hold for a bit because I want to take a stab at trying to do it with an items panel instead of just a fixed enum. Because I have the suspicion that as soon as we expose something like that, it's going to become an API that's difficult to manage, and I'd much rather give a more generalized one in there. So we'll see how it lands. As always, thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. JC, your eagle eye is always appreciated. With that, it is late. I bid everybody good night or good morning, depending on where you are located. And I will see everyone next time. Happy coding.